Coming up on CinemaKC, we take you behind the camera interviewing the hottest filmmakers in town.
We're going to show you a documentary film about a Kansas City community rich in history and spirit.
And a comedic short film about a super baby of sorts. Sort of.
CinemaKC starts now.
Welcome to CinemaKC, your own personal film festival. I'm Michelle Davidson.
And I'm Erin McGrane. And today we have filmmaker Jefferson Donald. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us. You've also helped us on the crew, so you're a great guy. We appreciate you. Now, what is your background in film?
I actually produced a feature film, a couple of feature films. I directed a feature film, and I came out of a distribution world, so I come from a business and an artistic background in feature film.
You need to know that. It's show business, right?
That's
so
exactly right.
That's a good thing to do.
That's exactly right.
Well, that's great. So we're going to see a film of yours right now?
That's correct.
Okay, let's take a look at it. It is Stragglers Hill, A People, A Community.
You had Riggins Cleaners, you had Riggins Record Shop, you had Jim's Market for food, you had Claiborne's
There was a restaurant down there by the name of Claiborne's.
But there's so few now. We used to go to Hezekiah's to get barbecue. And
I remember the Regal Theater. There were two theaters that blacks could go to at that time, Regal Theater on 10th and Princess Theater on 5th.
Go down there every week, Friday, and sometimes during the week. We do our little chores, they give us a little money, we run down there, enough for popcorn and stuff.
Drew's and Pruitt's. Those are the drugstores.
You didn't have to go too far out of the neighborhood for anything. Black businesses, barbershops, grocery stores, you name it, restaurants. It was all here. Pharmacy, had a pharmacy down on 10th Street.
Stragglers Hill came into being in the 1920s when the first resident moved up in this area by the name of Georgia Anderson and her husband. Then as the area began to progress and more residents moved in, it was stated that
once you get your home or buy a home in Stragglers Hill,
you had to struggle to keep the house payments going in the homes that you're in.
The name Stragglers Hill just developed out of that.
Franklin, I don't remember too much. We had a small little house on Franklin. But 10th and Freeman was very, very vivid in my mind.
And we lived in a small home, 3-bedroom with 12 children. 3-room house with 12 children.
Was next to a junkyard as I was growing up. It was ice and lumber and other stuff right there on the corner of 10th and Freeman. And my house was right next to that.
People were really struggling back in those days, and families helped each other. I only can remember maybe a few years that we didn't have relatives staying with us, and when they got on their feet, they, went and got their own places.
And everybody looked out for everybody else. And you didn't know there weren't any strangers except maybe a block or two away. You might not know everybody because that was a long way away at the time.
When I was a kid, I remember the lake, and they, when it used to freeze over, they used to have skating parties there. But that was something that other people didn't have in Kansas City. But in this area they did. And it was just something to move up here. To even come up here, just to walk through here, when little kids, you just come to walk through this area.
It was just people that was talented, in the neighborhood. Because it's like, we were sort of like forced to live in the neighborhood.
You think about race and segregation. I mean, I grew up in segregated society, and so this was a predominantly black community I grew up in the 50s in Kansas City, Kansas, as you said, Strugglers Hill. And so the businesses catered to the community, and the businesses were owned by blacks. And so we patronized those businesses.
I think some of us who grew up in segregated schools feel like we actually, at the time, we felt like we were being, segregated against because we weren't allowed to go to the white schools and so on. But we later realized that we did so much more by, or learned so much more by being at a segregated school or being at a black school.
I can't say much positive about segregation, except for at Sumner, we got teachers who had their master's degrees and working on their PhDs. And they couldn't find jobs anywhere else, and certainly for meaningful jobs. And many of them became teachers and became very, very good teachers.
We as a community depended on each other, and we had everything we needed from within ourselves. And we believed that we can trade elsewhere or go elsewhere or even find academic. We used to have the strongest schools and the most committed teachers in the world in our own communities, committed to producing the best, having standards of excellence in education and across the board.
You were expected to excel. You were told that you had to be better in order to even get an even break. That was drilled into your head.
So the combination of good teachers, the combination of parents that cared about us, and the combination of getting the kind of education that we received, I think positioned many of us for what we did later in life.
Politicians, teachers, they all lived in this neighborhood.
I can remember judges that were black at the time that I was in Kansas City.
My father started or helped start Douglas State Bank when I was 6 years old. And then my father was working at Atlanta Life Insurance Company at that time. And then when he left there to start his own company, which was Crusader Life and later became American Women's Life, it just seemed like the people that I was around, it just kind of all fell into place.
We'll be seeing the second half of Strugglers Hill after the break.
The Screenland Crossroads movie theater was originally the Mid-Central Fish Company delivery garage, where fish and oyster from both coasts were exported through KC. But today, this is the place where they export some of the most eclectic and hard to find motion pictures. You're watching CinemaKC.
Welcome back to CinemaKC at Outpost Studios. Here's the second half of Strugglers Hill.
Persons like Bishop Gregg, who was internationally known when he moved here in 1933, was one of the persons would attract people. People would want to live in an area where a person of this caliber, even at that time in 1933, lived. He was asked by President Roosevelt to be a special emissary to visit African American troops around the world.
Well, Uncle Alex was kind of a maverick in the family. My father and my other uncle, Julius, were pretty straight-laced, more so, and Uncle Alex was always doing some project.
Alex, when he started writing about the history, he had remembered as a child growing up in Hennons, Tennessee, his aunts talking about the story of Kente Kunte. And when he decided to write the story, two of the aunts were dead, and the only one still alive was Georgia Anderson, who lived at 1200 Everett.
He was one of the first ones who did Playboy interviews, the interviews for Playboy. So no one could read, the interviews. Well, we hear he's a good writer, but no one. And he did Reader's Digest, which was a lot better. He did some interviews, and he had done Malcolm X, which eventually became the autobiography of Malcolm X. So his coming back and forth to Kansas City, Kansas, here to Strugglers Hill, 1200 Everett, to visit with cousin Georgia, it was a mixed blessing, you know.
Private industry used to be down here. We had all, like up in Minnesota, we had all the stores you could want. Montgomery Ward's, Penny's, Hillsburg's, you know what I mean? Movie theaters, you know, 5 and dime stores, restaurants.
There is no store here now in the area. Apple Mart at 7th and State closed about 3 months ago now.
It didn't change until, you know, as the people started getting older, and then they moved out, or either, you know, they passed away.
And a lot of the people we knew that really made Strugglers Hill, a lot of them are gone.
We don't have a lot of children that are staying in the area. When they graduate, they leave out.
And my father used to say, you know, we'll never improve Kansas City if everybody gets their knowledge here and then they take it away.
We have to be mindful of what has, you know, the people that were there before us and how they went for, you know, the way that they lived, what they sacrificed, whatever they have given. And I just wish there, you know, we need to share the history of Strugglers Hill with others so they can realize the significance of this area.
And that's why our neighborhood association has been trying to improve that, and by exposing the neighbors to various activities.
And that's the only way it will work. It has to be people that care for other people, and where we're all looking out for each other.
That's for the community and unity.
Uh-huh.
That's it. That's the whole thing. Without the unity, you don't have nothing.
I hope that people will hear the story and keep the legacy alive, keep the area alive, and realize that because of some of the things that the persons of Strugglers Hill, you know, the things that they've accomplished, the things that they did, they will be able to continue the history.
I loved all of the people that tell this story. Did you enjoy the filmmaking process?
I really did. I mean, these people let me into their lives. They trusted me with their story. And we get to tell about what happened and their lives in present day. So it's a fantastic experience.
Do you have any personal connection to anyone in the neighborhood that's grown up in the neighborhood?
There's a little bit of a story there. Mr. Owens, my uncle saved him from drowning when he was a kid in high school. But I didn't know that until Mr. Owens told me. So there you go.
Wow. So what do you hope will come from people seeing this film? What is the response that you would like?
I think it's the same that Mr. Owens says at the very end of the film, that people will not forget and that people will actually remember the neighborhood. And I think what's great about our older generation, unfortunately, that even though they're passing on, they want to tell stories. So if we can capture those stories for film, we can preserve them for a younger generation. So.
What did you learn from this experience? What did you take away from it personally?
I took away the fact that I can actually make a documentary feature film. I come from a narrative background, but again, it's just telling stories. And I took away that there are great stories out there to talk about and to tell people about.
What's next for you?
I am always looking for new projects. I am trying to figure out that very thing. I actually have a web series that I'm working on too, as a matter of fact. One is an animated, one is a live action, and then always just trying to figure out what's going on next.
The next great story to tell. Where can people find out more about you and your films?
They can come to my website, which is jeffersondonald.com, or, you know, I'm out there. I have a couple of things in the video stores, so you never know.
All right, well, Jefferson, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have more after the break.
The marquee here at the Screenland Crossroads Movie Theater was salvaged from the old Isis Theater, where Walt Disney's very first short films played. Now it's been fully renovated for its new home here at the funkiest movie theater in Kansas City, Screenland Crossroads Theater. You're watching CinemaKC. Welcome back to CinemaKC. We're here with filmmaker Dustin Adair. Welcome, Dustin.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. We're going to take a look at one of your short films. Did you make this film as part of your involvement with IFC?
Yeah, we made this for the Kansas International Film Festival. IFC does every year a showcase there, and that's kind of why we made it. So.
Terrific. Was this your first time in the showcase?
No, I'd had other stuff in before, but this is the first thing that I had actually directed. So.
Fantastic. This is your directorial debut then.
I guess
Great.
so.
Okay, well, let's take a look right now at Pro Choice.
So, you're interested in selective genetics for your baby.
Yes, Dr. Farber. We want our first child to be the perfect expression of our love.
Well, we've come a long way in the last decade, and we are able to genetically engineer your baby with the traits that you desire most.
Well, that's great.
Well, let's get started. What would be some of the traits you would want your baby to have?
Whew. Really don't know where to start.
Well, let's start with sex. Do you want a boy or a girl?
Oh, just as long as it's healthy.
A boy. We want a boy.
Oh.
What else?
Well, I'd really like him to be tall like Robert. Everybody in my family is so short. And I've always wanted to dunk a basketball.
Uh-huh. Eyes?
Yes.
2, please.
No, color.
Oh, well, he should have Mary's eyes. I love her eyes.
Aww. Sweet.
Okay. And?
Robert is losing his hair. Is there any way our baby can avoid that?
Sure.
But can he have my hair color? That would be great.
Oh, premature gray is so sexy. Anderson Cooper is so masculine.
I don't see why not. What else?
And he needs to be athletic too.
But also artistic and sensitive.
And broad shoulders. Nobody in our family has broad shoulders, and they would look so good with my eyes and your premature gray.
And he should have really good ears. He should have great hearing, super hearing.
Actually,
and an excellent swimmer.
But not if that means he's afraid of fire.
Oh, of course not.
It would be nice if he could control fire, though.
Now you see, this is why I married you.
Yeah, I think you may have missed something.
You know what, Dr. Farber, you're right. Thank you so much. Super strength.
Ooh, and when he squints his eyes, he should be able to travel back in time and have regenerative limbs, and his mirror self should know Kung Fu.
That show is so derivative.
Sorry, dear.
X-ray vision.
But a strong moral compass.
And he should be able to fly, like a lion.
And he should marry a supermodel who's an astrophysicist with rich parents.
He should be the first man to swim the English Channel.
No. He should also be a supermodel and be more attractive than his wife.
Bones made out of adamantium, like that one guy.
And don't forget the healing factor, dear.
Right. Throw one of those in, too.
Well, Dr. Farber, that's all I can think of off the top of my head.
I'm sure that if you gave us some more time, we could come up with more.
Vanessa, hold my calls, please. And take all of the comic books out of the waiting room.
Oh, that was great. So this was the first film you ever directed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was that like for you?
Well, it was a little strange. I had written it kind of in conjunction with a friend of mine, and when we were getting ready to go into production, the team kind of was like, Dustin, why don't you direct this? You've never directed anything before. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess so. And so it was a real learning experience. I mean, I literally had to be told to say action and cut.
Wow.
So.
Would you do it again?
Yeah, I'm actually in about to start production on my second short.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on that. And what gave you the idea for this film?
It's kind of funny. I was working as costume designer on a feature film, American Maniacs, and we were in the middle of the winter in a barn in negative 16-degree weather, and we were all standing there, and we started somehow we got on the idea of genetically engineering a baby and what traits we'd want that baby to have, and fly like a lion, someone said, and it just kind of cracked everybody up. So I went home literally that evening and wrote the script.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us. That was great. We'll be back with more on CinemaKC.
Stageport is a welcome addition to the Crossroads Art District. It's like a real Hollywood soundstage, but it's right here in Kansas City. You're watching CinemaKC.
Welcome back to CinemaKC. We're here with Vicky Rocko, Vice President of the Independent Filmmakers Coalition, or IFC. Hi, Vicky.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, so what is the benefit of becoming a member of IFC?
There are a ton of benefits, but I would say primarily networking, the ability to, connect with people who know a lot about what's going on in Kansas City and benefit from that.
It's probably fun too, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So if someone wants to become a filmmaker, how would they find you and find out about where to meet with IFC members?
We meet every Wednesday night at 7:30 at Westport Coffee House. We also have a website, www.ifckc.com, and we have updates there all the time. I know because I do the updates.
Like, I work on those, so
go
make
look
sure
at that
we're
thing,
updated.
yeah.
Well, Vicki, thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate what you do for the IFC and the
Thank
film
you.
community here in Kansas City.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.